In more ways than one, the ceiling fan industry has undergone a revolution, and Casablanca has been the leader in making the ceiling fan a practical and attractive addition to the modern home. Casablanca's IntelliTouch series has been in production for more than 6 years, and it's the only successful remote control ceiling fan sold today. Casablanca is now proud to introduce its newest partner, ComfortTouch, a revolutionary comfort and convenience control system. ComfortTouch is totally different. It's wireless. ComfortTouch adds many new, easy-to-use features to the world of ceiling fans. We'll see those features in just a few minutes, but first, a word about the ease of installation of ComfortTouch. As you'll see during the installation, the wall control can be mounted either on a convenient wall bracket or placed on a tabletop or at bedside. The fan itself installs like any other Casablanca model, so let's look at installing the wall control. First, the wall control bracket installs with 2 screws. Next, install 3 AAA alkaline batteries in the control and close the cover. The ComfortTouch has 4 Velcro pads which engage matching pads on the wall bracket. Simply place the wall control against the bracket and push slightly. That's it. That's all there is to installing the ComfortTouch wall control. Now, assuming you've installed the fan correctly, let's take a tour of the ComfortTouch and see its many new features. Looking at the face of the control, you first see a large liquid crystal display in the center. This display will constantly show the actual room temperature, as well as other information designed to help the user understand what the fan is doing and to allow easier use. On either side of the display are 2 large panels. These are the fan and light on-off buttons. Below each panel are 2 up-down buttons which are used to adjust the light intensity up or down and the fan speed up or down. Now, since these are the features most frequently used on the fan, they are the only ones available on the face of the control. Features used less frequently are accessible behind a small control panel, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Now let's take a look at the operation of the ComfortTouch. Push the light button on. Notice the lights on the fan gradually increase to full intensity instead of snapping on instantly. Not only does this spare the eyes from a blast of light, it also extends the life of the light bulbs by eliminating the surge of current that normally occurs when a light is turned on. By the way, you also heard a small audio tone which comes from the wall control, not the fan. A tone is heard anytime one of the control buttons is pushed. To turn the light off, just push the light button again. The audio tone confirms your push, the light bulb and vertical segment in the display go off, and the light gradually begins to turn off. This safe exit feature is designed to allow 10 seconds for leaving the room before the lights turn completely off. If you want to turn the light off immediately, just push the light button a second time. Let's turn the lights on again and operate the up-down buttons you see below the light button. By pushing the down button, you can see the light getting dimmer and the display segments moving downward to indicate a dimmer light. This new light setting is memorized by the fan so that the light can be turned on and off at this new memorized setting. Of course, pushing the up arrow causes the light to get brighter. The fan control works essentially the same way. Push the fan button and the fan comes on. Now, since this is the first time it's been turned on, the fan starts at low speed. To make the fan go faster, simply push the up button. You can see the new speed indicated in the display. Notice also in the display that the arrow is pointing downward, indicating downward airflow. This is an extremely helpful feature for those who have trouble figuring out which way the fan needs to turn in order to have either upward or downward airflow. And of course, you've got a down arrow to slow the fan as well. Now, as with the light, the fan speed is memorized at each setting so that when the fan is turned off and back on, it starts at the speed previously selected. And as with the original IntelliTouch, there are 6 fan speeds. Well, these are the most frequently used features of the fan. Now let's open the small control compartment door and look at some of the exciting new features of ComfortTouch. You see 6 buttons, each labeled with a specific function. Unlike the original IntelliTouch, there is no programming required to use these features. Watch how simple it is to operate. To reverse airflow direction, simply push the reverse button once. You'll see the arrow in the display change direction and the fan will gradually reverse its rotation. Air is now blowing upward. Push the button again and the airflow returns to the previous direction. For demonstration purposes, there's a test button which puts the fan and light through a complete demonstration cycle in about 90 seconds. All the segments in the display turn on at once, then the fan goes through its test mode. Note the word test is on in the display. As with other special features, any feature can be canceled by pushing the test button a second time. Since we don't want to watch the entire test program here, we'll just cancel it. Some familiar features have been retained in Comfort Touch. Push the Saver button and the word Saver appears in the display. Now, anytime the lights are turned on, they will automatically turn off after 60 minutes. This is ideal for those areas where people tend to leave the lights on, wasting energy. It's also handy in a child's room, where you may wish to leave the lights on until the child goes to sleep. We have this feature in the original IntelliTouch, but because of the programming required, it is rarely used. Next, I'll push the Security button, and you'll note the word Security appears in the display. Now, the lights will turn on and off in a random pattern designed to give the home a lived-in look. The lights will turn on at varying intensities to further enhance the effect. Now, this is a good time to point out that several special features can be activated at one time. Here, for example, you see both Saver and Security in operation simultaneously. Of course, other combinations are possible. A new feature added to Comfort Touch is what we call the winter mode. Now, we always talk about being able to use the very low speed of an IntelliTouch fan in the wintertime to recirculate the warm air usually trapped against the ceiling. In Comfort Touch, we've taken that to a new level of sophistication. Simply push the winter button and notice that the fan is set at low speed with upward airflow. In this mode, air is gently circulated upward across the ceiling and back down the walls of the home. However, every 10 minutes, the winter feature increases the fan speed to speed 3 for 10 seconds. This is just enough to break up any stratification layers and recirculate valuable warm air without creating a draft. This is a patented exclusive new feature for Casablanca, a feature that enhances the year-round utility of ceiling fans. Now, probably the most important new feature made possible by the technologies of Comfort Touch is auto speed. Simply push the auto button to activate it. Notice that the winter mode is canceled. These two features cannot be on at the same time. Now, set the fan speed to, let's say, speed 3 and the desired airflow direction, let's say, down. Once the fan speed has been set for desired comfort at the room temperature indicated, the auto speed feature takes over. If the temperature in the room increases, the fan speed will gradually increase to maintain comfort. The same is true in the other direction. When room temperature decreases, the fan speed also decreases. All this is done within the microprocessor control which commands the fan whenever a change is needed. This is perfect control for any room in the house, be it a kitchen where cooking and sun load cause big changes in temperature, a room with a fireplace, or a bedroom where temperature changes during the night can make you feel too cool. Comfort Touch easily accommodates these changes to maintain personal comfort. As you can see, Comfort Touch offers a whole host of new features aimed at making the ceiling fan a year-round comfort, convenience, and energy-saving appliance. Couple that with traditional Casablanca beauty and quality, and you can see why the Comfort Touch is the most exciting addition to the ceiling fan industry in its history. Comfort Touch is Casablanca's commitment to putting technology to work to keep its products first in line when consumers think of a ceiling fan. Casablanca fans, still the world's finest. Hello, I'm Ed Hart for Casablanca, and in a few minutes I'll be taking you on a step-by-step installation of a Casablanca ceiling fan. We not only make the finest ceiling fan, but I think you'll soon agree that a Casablanca fan is simple to install and use. Now let's go to our demonstration room and see an actual installation. Well, here we are in our demonstration room. And this is Bob, our technician, who'll be doing the actual installation. Now, as Bob has already done, make sure you've turned off all electrical power at the circuit breaker or fuse box. Failure to do so could result in electrical shock. Now, a word about the location of the fan. If the installation is on a high ceiling or a slope ceiling, then you'll need an extension pole. But here's an important point to remember. Mount a ceiling fan too close to a wall or slope ceiling, and you're likely to have wobble problems. What can happen is that airflow near the wall or ceiling generates turbulence, causing the fan to wobble. The solution is to locate the fan away from the wall, or if it's a sloped ceiling, just add a longer extension rod. With or without an extension pole, you will need a ceiling wiring box. Whether you use an existing box, install a new one yourself, or have one installed, make sure the ceiling box is approved for use with ceiling fans. The wiring box must meet all local codes. Your Casablanca dealer can help you select the right type. Your Casablanca dealer can also supply Casablanca's Fan Fast Mounting Kit, which is Underwriter's laboratory approved for ceiling fan mounting. Since the majority of Casablanca fans are installed to replace an existing light fixture, that's the installation we will see. Once you've determined that you have a complete set of parts, it's time to start the installation. Begin by mounting the crossbar mounting plate to the ceiling wiring box using the 2 metal screws and washers that are provided. Now make sure that the ridges on the crossbar are pointing down. If the ridges are pointing up, it could later cause the fan to wobble. If the wiring box is not flush and level with the ceiling line, you may have to make some adjustments to make sure that it is. If it's not level, again, the fan may wobble. Feed the electrical wires from the ceiling through the hole in the center of the crossbar as Bob has done, and tighten the screws firmly. Once the crossbar is installed, pull on it to make sure the box is tight to the ceiling joist. Next, install the canopy. Using 3 long screws, attach the canopy to the crossbar and tighten it snugly against the ceiling. Now snug up each screw one at a time so that they all have about the same tension on them. This is a critical step because loose canopy screws may lead to a fan that wobbles. Before installing the motor, write down the model and serial number in the owner's manual and on the sales receipt for future reference. After completing this very important step, inspect the fan for any damage. Make sure that the black rubber flywheel is not rubbing against the housing. This might indicate that there is some shipping damage. Should there be damage, your Casablanca dealer can help get it corrected. Pay particular attention to the black ball on the top of the fan. It should be absolutely tight against the shaft and should not move. If it's loose, tighten the small Allen screw and make sure it's tight. Now, this is important because if the ball is not tight, there may be wobble when the fan operates. Now, as you can see, Casablanca provides extra wire for those installations where an extension pole is going to be used. Since our installation doesn't need that much wire, we will cut the wire so that about 8 inches is extending beyond the black ball. Well, I recommend you go ahead and strip about a ½ inch of insulation off each of the wires while it's on the floor, rather than trying to do this while the fan is hung. Next, lift the fan and carefully place the black ball inside the canopy. Once you get it centered, it should drop into place. Now rotate the ball so the slot on the side of the ball engages the pin at the back of the hang-true canopy. Again, this is important to avoid any wobble problems later. Now, using the wire nuts provided, simply connect the wires. Connect the fan white wire to the outlet white wire. Next, connect the fan black wire to the black wire from the ceiling wiring box. Now connect the green wire of the fan to the green wire of the crossbar and the copper ground wire from the outlet box if one is available. With all the connections made, carefully turn the wire nuts around and push the wiring inside the canopy. No wires should be exposed on the outside. Double check your work and make sure that nothing is loose. The fan should be free to swing in the canopy, but the canopy should be firm against the ceiling. If everything appears okay, it's time to install the canopy hatch cover. Using the 4th canopy screw provided, you'll need to tilt the fan slightly while you're doing this. With the firm tightening of the canopy hatch screw, the installation of the fan motor assembly is completed. Next, we're going to install the blades, but first we must very carefully open the blade box. Too often, a knife is used to open the side of the box and you end up with a scratch down the middle of a blade. Carefully open the ends with a knife or scissors and slide the blades out. Use the scissors to remove any protective film around the blades. Again, be careful not to scratch the blades. Now here's an important point to remember. At Casablanca, each set of blades is matched within 1 gram for uniform weight and balance. If you're installing 2 fans at once, make certain the blades and blade irons from one set are not mixed with those of another. Mixing blades and blade irons could lead to balancing problems. Once you've got the blade irons and blades assembled, it's time to install the blades on the fan flywheel. Make sure the screws are going in straight and tighten them firmly. Some fans may have different blade attachment methods, so be sure to follow the instructions that come with your fan. In general, 4-bladed fans use the flywheel holes with square counterbores. 5-bladed fans use the flywheel holes with round counterbores. Once the blades are installed, give them a manual spin to make sure they are turning freely. After mounting any glassware and installing the light bulbs, the mounting of the fan itself is finished. It's time to install the wall control. With the main power off, remove the wall plate and the wall switch. If the switch uses the push-in wiring method, you may need to cut the wires and re-strip them to expose about a ½ inch of wire. With the old switch out of the wall, install the IntelliTouch wall control using the same 2 wires. Connect either wire from the wall control to either wire in the wall switch box. If you're able to determine which switch box wire goes to the fan, connect it to the black wire with the white stripe marked as LD on the back of the IntelliTouch control. After connecting both wires, carefully push the wall control into place and secure it with 2 mounting screws. I suggest you don't install the cover at this point because you may need to come back and reverse the 2 wires if the control doesn't work properly. Okay, you've got the fan installed and you've got the wall control installed. It's time to double check your work. And when you're certain everything has been done correctly, it's time to turn on the main power. Let's check the operation of the wall control. Push the power button to turn power on in the IntelliTouch wall control. Push and release the light button. If the light comes on, everything is working fine. If the fan comes on instead, however, the control wires will need to be reversed. To correct the problem, turn off the main power, pull the wall control from the wall and reverse the wiring connections. Then reinstall the control and turn the main power back on. To check to see if the problem is corrected, push and release the light button and the light should come on. It's that simple. To continue checking the operation of the IntelliTouch control, push and release the light button again. The light should go off. If you want the light to be less than full on, turn the light off and push and hold the light button. You'll notice the light gradually goes up in brightness. Stop at the brightness you want. Now, when you turn the light off and back on, the light will come back on at the same brightness. You can change the brightness setting at any time by simply turning off the light and pushing and holding the light button. The fan works essentially the same way. There are 6 fan speeds. With the fan off, push and hold the fan button and the fan speed will gradually increase. Each one of the 6 speeds is announced by its own audio tone to help you find the speed you desire. When it gets to the speed you like, simply release the button and the fan will run at that speed. If you turn the fan off, then back on, the fan will come on at the speed you had previously set. To reverse the fan, simply push both the fan and light button together and release. The fan will smoothly reverse with an audio tone to indicate the change in airflow direction. By the way, We generally recommend downward airflow for summer cooling and upward airflow for winter heat recirculation and destratification. The IntelliTouch is particularly helpful for destratification because it offers two very slow speeds which can recirculate air gently without creating a draft. Well, so far we have assumed that your installation went well and the fan is ready for operation. But we know that's not always the way the real world goes, so here are a few problems you might see. The most common problem you may encounter is the fan which appears to have no power. Begin with the circuit breaker or fuse box. Is the circuit breaker tripped or is the fuse blown? If everything else is okay, we suggest that you next check the wiring at the canopy. Because it's a cramped area, sometimes the wire is not fully captured in the wire nut, so there's no connection. As with other electrical checks, make sure the circuit breaker is off before you do this. With Casablanca's downrod system, we occasionally see cases where the wires in the extension rod are cut by the through bolt. We recommend that an Allen wrench be used to guide the bolt to prevent this from happening. If the wires have been cut or nicked by the bolt, the wires must be replaced. While you're checking for this, also make sure the bolt is in the lowest hole on the top support of the fan. The problems we've just mentioned cover most of the no power problems you're likely to encounter. The next most common problem we find is one of balance or wobble when the fan is running at high speeds. I think we all know that anything that rotates needs to be balanced, whether it be a jet engine, an automobile tire, or even the motor in a Mixmaster. Because it's impractical to ship a ceiling fan completely assembled, we rely on precision manufacturing and careful matching of blade and blade iron components to assure smooth operation. After installing a fan, we strongly suggest that you run the fan from low speed to high speed in both directions before you consider the job finished. There will typically be a small amount of movement at high speeds, and this is usually not considered a problem. However, if the movement is excessive, then you're going to want to do something about it. By the way, if you try to run a fan without the blades, the rubber flywheel may look like it's out of balance because it's crooked or slightly lopsided. Don't worry about it. The weight of the blades after installation will correct the problem. But let's suppose you do have a fan with some wobble. Check the blade irons first to see if they are bent or deformed. This is most easily seen by slowly rotating the fan by hand while viewing the blades from their ends. If a blade iron is bent or deformed, the entire set of blade irons must go back to the dealer for exchange. Casablanca matches each blade iron set within 1 gram, so don't try to just replace a single blade iron. It will only make matters worse. Next, check the blades. An extreme change in humidity up or down may cause a blade to warp. A warped blade develops a twist, which you can see by viewing the blade on end. The blade may curve over its full length. A little bit of warp usually won't cause a problem and is hardly noticeable. But if there is a substantial amount of warpage, then the entire set needs to be replaced. Again, blades are carefully matched by Casablanca and are only sold in matched sets. So plan to replace the entire set, not just a single blade. If the light fixture is loose, it too can contribute to wobble. If the fixture is loose, tighten it and try the fan again. One of the important features Casablanca has added to eliminate wobble is the hang-true